Okay, well, good afternoon. My name is Max Brooks. I am the Career Preparation Coordinator at SOU with the Office of Career Connections. And I am really excited to have Alex DeBoer joining me today to kind of talk about recruiting tips and tricks, to talk about opportunities at Lithia, and to share some of her experiences and advice. So welcome to the Career Connections Working Lunch series with Lithia Motors. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. So I've got some questions here for you, and we'll just kind of walk through those. And I suppose it makes sense to start with kind of who you are, what's your role at Lithia, and kind of what is your background that led you to your position?
Yeah, so I am a corporate recruiter at Lithia. Lithia Motors, as some of you may know, is an automotive retail company. So we own car dealerships all across the country. I think we have 250 dealerships now, just in almost every state. But obviously, we need a corporate offices to support all of those dealership operations. And so our main corporate office is out of Southern Oregon, and I do most of the recruiting for there, along with a couple other team members. And then also we have recently opened a second home office up in Portland, Oregon, where I also recruit heavily out of. And so, I recruit for multiple different roles across our home office: accounting, marketing, finance, operational type roles, some like sales type roles. We have a new digital brand called Driveway, and I also do quite a bit of recruiting for that, which I'll touch on, later in this process. But that's kind of generally what I do. And I've worked for the company for about 2 years now. So.
Okay, gotcha. Great. And you told us a little bit about kind of Lithia, the size of Lithia, the scope of what they do. What else would you want folks to know about Lithia as an employer and an organization?
Yeah, so one thing for sure is that we're not just like a dealership company. So people, when they think of Lithia, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I don't want to go work for a car dealership." But that's not what it is at all. Like, we are a Fortune 500 company. We're one of the second biggest, or we're the second biggest company in Oregon behind Nike. We're growing like crazy. Like I said, we have our whole corporate side, which supports all of those stores. So when I'm recruiting out at colleges and whatnot, I want people to know, I'm recruiting for that side. We're not really recruiting for the dealership side in that regard. Something that is really great about Lithia, and what I've loved so much about working for Lithia, is just the people. We have a really, really great culture. All companies kind of have their values and everything, but I think Lithia, more than any company that I've had experience with, they really like follow those values, and literally they're like intertwined in pretty much everything we do. And that makes it, that makes the culture really strong, and people, want to work here. They want to excel. They want to perform hard, like really well. They want to grow with the company, and that's something that I really enjoyed about being here. The values, they're improve constantly, earn customers for life, have fun, and so all of those values, they're simple. They're really, really simple. One of them is have fun, like I said. But that's what's so great about it, is like you don't need like super detailed values. You just need basic things to kind of guide you in your work. And I think that by keeping those values so simple, Lithia has done a great job with, developing their corporate culture. So
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I like those values quite a bit, especially that last one, that have fun piece.
Yeah.
And you touched on a number of things that you enjoy about kind of working for Lithia. Are there examples of ways that have fun piece kind of comes into play in terms of your day-to-day kind of experience at Lithia?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we do a lot of different events, especially at our corporate office in Medford. We have something called Lithia for Kids, and it's like going out and meeting with, students in the community, like, kindergarteners, or meeting with some of the local charities, and like just going to hang out with them and, have a good time with them, read to them, do different things like that. We also do, more like, not on the service side, but we do, kind of like company-wide events. So like, for example, on like Halloween every year, we do like a really big, like we close the office early. We have everybody dress up on our top floor. We make it a haunted house, and everybody
Cool.
and everyone's kids or whoever in the community wants to come by can
Um,
come walk through. And it's really pretty funny because like they can go trick-or-treating at the desk, and then they end with the haunted house up top. And you know, even some of our like executive team, our CEO, like they'll even participate and like wear the mask, and like it's just so fun. Like we do things like that around like almost every holiday.
mhm.
We also do a event like bring your kids to work day type thing where anyone's kids can come in, and we have activities planned. And just, you know, it's really important for us to do that and to like be able to network with people's families, not just, you know,
Mhm.
the people that you work with, but you know,
Yeah.
they are their family too, so we want to bring those people in as well and make
That's
it
great.
fun. Yeah.
That's very neat. Um, well, so for folks who might be interested in joining a culture like that, can you talk a little bit about the types of positions that you hire for? And I'm guessing it's all over the place. You mentioned that you specifically work to hire kind of for the corporate office. Um, you know, but as we think about what either current students might have available to them or folks who are just about to graduate or have just graduated, what are some of the positions that are open now? And then even if there are positions that aren't open now, but that you occasionally do hire for, what do some of those look like?
Right. So for new grads, people that are going to be graduating soon, we have a couple of different programs that I think would be most interesting to hear about. The first one is our new DART program. So the DART program, well, I guess it's been in progress for about a year now, but it's what it is it stands for Data Analytics Rotational Training Program. And this can be a broad range of majors that would be applicable to this position. Like any kind of business major, economics, statistics, math, data science, computer science, all of those could come into this program and be successful. What the program is it's a really cool opportunity to basically come in as a general data analyst at the company, and then you get the opportunity to do rotations through different departments within our corporate office. So you might do like a 3-month rotation with marketing, a 3-month rotation with finance, a 3-month rotation with our compensation team. And then you're kind of doing projects with them, meeting their teams, networking with those people.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, at the end of your rotations, you can kind of choose, oh, I really love the marketing team. This seems like the best fit for me. This is where I want to be full time and, you know, grow my career. And so it gives you that flexibility to like come in and not really knowing exactly where you want to land, but giving you that really good foundation of the company and learning these different areas. So it's really cool. We have about 7 people in the program right now, and I'm currently hiring for like 5 to 10 people in the next couple throughout the summer, and then throughout the year. Like we're pretty much always hiring for it now that we're growing the program. So if anyone's ever interested, I love to chat more about that program. We're starting a second program, kind of similar. It's going to be an accounting rotational training program. This one hasn't really started yet, but we're just starting it kind of towards the beginning of this summer. And it's going to be a similar thing where you just come in as like a general accounting person, and then you have the opportunity to rotate through, you know, tax, audit, advisory, SOX, compliance, like any of those places, so that you're not really stuck in any one place. With both of these programs too, sometimes people get confused and think it's like an internship, but it is a both are full-time programs. Like you are a full-time employee with us. And so, you know, you do get to do these rotations and you're not stuck in any one place, but we are planning for you to be here long-term at the company.
Okay.
So those are both pretty cool. Another option is we have a new digital brand, which I mentioned earlier, called Driveway. We built a new building downtown Medford called the Driveway Care Center, and that is basically the operations for Driveway. What Driveway is you can check it out and go on driveway.com if you're interested, but it's basically a way for us to sell cars online so that customers never have to go into a dealership because,
Mhm.
things are moving that way. People don't always like to have that interaction with a
Right.
salesperson. And so this is our solution to that at Lithia. So it's a really cool, the Driveway Care Center is fun. It's got a like startup-y kind of vibe. Like it's a little bit different culture than our main home office, but still backed by Lithia and everything, but it's got a little bit more of that startup, like things are changing all the time. There's lots of growth opportunity. And so we have what's called driveway agents, and that's kind of the first position within that Driveway Care Center. And that's a really, really great one for college students to come into. We already have quite a few SOU recent grads in there right now. So also, if anyone's ever interested in chatting with one of those people or anything about their experience, we'd of course be happy to set that up. So yeah, so we're hiring. Those are kind of like my main college ones. We of course
Sure.
have things all across the board in other departments. We also have our internship program. We do a summer internship program, but then we also offer internships in fall and winter. So just depending on what works for you, we can also do, part-time internships while you're in school. We're pretty flexible as far as all of these things go. So yeah.
Okay, that's great. And for folks who are interested in those types of opportunities, would you direct them to your hiring website? Is that the best place for them to stay kind of up to date on
Yeah.
what's available?
Yeah, so we have lithiacareers.com, and that's really going to show, all these positions. It's going to give you some background on Lithia. I'm also happy to talk with anyone anytime. My email's alexdebor@lithia. I'm sure Max will get it out to people if they are interested, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm always happy to, jump on a call and chat with people about any of these things as well.
Great. Well, I'm sure that as you're doing hiring for these different positions, there are specific skills or skill sets that you're looking for from one position to the next. But are there some common skills or experiences that are really appealing to you as the person doing the hiring that you're looking for when you're kind of reviewing candidates?
Yeah, so definitely before anything, it doesn't matter how, I guess, technical the position is. We always look at cultural fit before everything. So knowing our values is a big one that I always like to tell people. Be able to demonstrate when you're in an interview or talking to your recruiter, be able to demonstrate that you kind of live those Lithia values, because they are simple values. The values that we have, like I said, take ownership, improve constantly, have fun. Those are all things that we look for in a candidate, someone that already does that
Right.
in their daily life. So I always tell people in an interview, be able to demonstrate those without being like, oh, I take ownership, like, without making
Yeah.
it like very
Yeah.
obvious that that's what you're doing, but be able to show that and, have stories that where you were able to do those things. And you can find our values and kind of some explanations of what we mean by them on our website, lithiacareers.com as well. And I think that's a really good starting point for, getting in with Lithia. I think also showing, demonstrating like your flexibility and willingness to like take on different types of thing is another big thing that we look for, because our company is constantly changing. We're growing like at a crazy rate. And so having that flexibility and willingness to like take on different types of projects or do stuff, and having that a little bit of being okay with a lack of structure is something that we also look for. I know definitely in certain positions, like they're more structure based, but as a like accounting, like generally those are more structure based. But a lot of our positions, like they're changing all the time. They're developing. We're doing new things with them. They're throwing different kinds of projects at you. So while you don't, not to say that you're working crazy hours or anything, but more you're just doing different kinds of stuff every day.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I like to, talk to people about when I'm in the phone screening process or even in an interview. So
Gotcha. That's great. So
yeah.
students should be thinking about, some of those skill sets, reflecting on their own about how they have demonstrated, some of those values, some of those experiences, and then be able to weave that in, I'm guessing, both their application materials and prepared to talk about that stuff in interviews.
Right. And like, if you do end up interviewing for a position with us, I mean, you'll find yourself that it's not very, we don't do like technical, like super strict questioning type interviews. Like they're very much, conversational, just getting to know you. Like we just want to know you, and we don't want you to feel like super pressured during the interview or anything, because we do just want to know, is it a good fit for us, but also is it a good fit for you? So if you aren't yourself during the interview, then, we might hire you and you might not like it because it won't be,
Right.
your genuine self. And so we of course want you as the candidate to, show your true self and, make sure it's a good fit for you. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned your email address and kind of welcome folks to be in touch. If there are students out there who are thinking about Lithia, but they're not sure if they're quite the right fit for, for one of these positions, is that an appropriate time to potentially reach out and say, here's who I am, here's what I'm good at, here's where my interests are. Do you see a fit as, as a Lithia recruiter, for one of your roles? Or is it better for them just to apply if they're even remotely curious and then sort it out on the back end?
Yeah, no, either way is fine. I think definitely reach out to me if you're not sure what you want to do. I think that I love to just like chat through,
Yeah.
what you like to do and what you don't like and all that kind of stuff. All of our recruiters on my team, we really focus on basically making sure. So if you apply for one position, we make sure that we're like kind of screening you for any position that we have open. So we're all very aware at corporate, like what positions are open, what positions might be a good fit. So like, even though like one of my positions on my list might not be on another recruiter's list, like she's going to be knowing that like what positions I have. So if we talk with you and it seems like you'll be a really good fit for a certain position, like we will definitely share that on our end. And so you're not really locked into just one position. If you apply,
Okay.
don't feel like that ever. Like even if you do apply to one position, we're still always like, okay, where else could this person work if it doesn't work there? So
Okay.
that's something to keep in mind.
That's great. It feels like it builds a lot of flexibility in for the candidate. And I think those conversational interviews are a more comfortable experience probably for most folks than feeling like you're going in and getting grilled by somebody.
Right. Well, and sometimes the managers for, one position we have open are also managers on another position. So sometimes they'll even do an interview and like consider you for both of theirs, which is nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
That's great. That's helpful. Well, in thinking about the actual applications, then I'm guessing you're someone who has seen a lot of resumes, maybe read a lot of cover letters. Is there some general advice that you would give to folks? Do's and don'ts or things that you see that you look for every time, or things that you see that automatically disqualify someone in your eyes, so as people are putting together their materials, what would you encourage them to think or keep in mind?
Yeah. So like when I go on to look at a resume, the first thing I'm looking at is like, is this, consistent formatting? Do they have all the basic things? Do they have, their work experience listed? Do they have their education listed? And then I look at the dates. I usually look at the dates kind of towards the beginning of looking at the resume, just to see, are there any gaps? Are there any, areas that like aren't explained by the resume? And it's just fine if there are, but I do like when candidates put like a little explanation at top of why those gaps might be there. Or if you are somebody with some gaps in your resume, that's a good time to include a cover letter and just kind of explaining why that might have been, maybe I took some time away to do this or that.
Right.
We don't require a cover letter at Lithia for any of our positions, but the only time that I really think it is beneficial is if you have something like that, where it'd be helpful to explain, because sometimes that can make a recruiter go, oh, okay, I'm going to call this person versus, oh, they have all these gaps, I'm just going to decline them.
Okay.
So I like that. So like I said, consistent formatting. I like to know graduation date. So always put that. I think most recruiters like that because we want to know kind of who we're talking to. Are you graduating this year? Are you graduating in 3 years? That kind of affects, our thoughts. And then with the times currently, we also like to see, are you looking for remote work? Are you looking for in person? Are you willing to relocate? That's something that in recent times, I think most of the people on my team have really valued when people add that piece, just because, a lot of people are looking for remote or different things, or they're not willing to live in Southern Oregon, or if there's anything like that, any like strict things that you have, just list those at the top because that's really helpful. some things I dislike is when there's not a phone number, or if that we literally use the phone number on the resume to call you. So if you
Right,
don't put
right.
it, then it makes us a little annoyed, and then we have to go find it. And so
Mhm.
just
Yep.
always put a phone number. And then sometimes when they're too long, so I'm sure most
Mhm.
people have heard that before, but keep it to a page. Like, we're not like, when there's all these bullet points, like, I'll be honest, I don't really read those. I'll like,
Mhm.
if I'm like hiring for more of like a technical position, then maybe I'll read those a little bit more, but I'm more
Yeah.
looking at like the job title you did, and like, if I'm really not sure, I'll go into a little more detail, but that's definitely not the focus. So don't spend hours like making those bullet points. I know I did that when I was in school, and I was like,
Mhm.
does this sound right? And I would spend so much time making the perfect, bullet points under each job. But then but it's good to have something, but keep it to like two or three, straight points. Like, you
Gotcha.
don't need to go into crazy detail, because that's what we talk about on the phone, and
Right,
so
right, right.
yeah.
Great. And are most of your interviews, I'm guessing right now they're taking place virtually or over the phone, is that right?
Yep, yep. Most of them are just like this through Zoom, or we also use a platform called WebEx pretty frequently.
Mhm.
If people are in the Valley and the positions in the Valley, then we're trying to start having people come in. It just kind of depends on if people are comfortable and whatnot.
Mhm.
But it is nice to be able to have you down to the office so that people can really see like what it's
Right.
like there, because
Yeah.
the office is really cool. If you haven't been, like, it's really nice, modern, it's a good
Mhm.
environment, so it's fun to have people down there if we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Great. Well,
yeah.
and for those interviews, then are there I guess similar advice? You mentioned that they're conversational. You like people to be able to kind of speak to how they've demonstrated the skills that they bring to the table, how they've lived your values. Are there other ways that you'd recommend people prepare either for Lithia interviews or interviews more generally? And what would you encourage folks to keep in mind as they're getting ready for that
Mhm.
experience?
Yeah, I think definitely just being comfortable with talking and being like show your like people skills, like
Mhm.
talk to the interviewer about, don't be afraid to just like ask them about themselves, or
Yeah.
get to know them a little bit too, or ask them questions. I always like when people come prepared with some questions for,
Mhm.
maybe towards the end of the interview. When they do ask, hey, do you have any questions? Like, have a couple of questions, because
Yeah.
I think it shows that like you've thought about it and you're actually considering the opportunity, like you're taking it seriously for yourself. So that's one thing that I think is really important. Just like have those questions ready. It can be literally anything too, like what's
Mhm.
it like working here? How long have you worked here? Or like anything like that works. But
Yeah.
it's nice. It shows that you're really considering the option. So I always recommend
Yeah,
that.
great. And when you think about some of the great interviews that you've taken part in or kind of observed, are there things that make people really stand out? Or on the flip side, are there those moments when you realize within the first couple of minutes, no, this isn't going to work, and what gives it away? Is it just that they aren't engaging in the way that you're describing, or are
Mhm,
there other things that are kind of warning signs for you, or on the flip side, things that you're like, oh wow, that
mhm.
was really good. I want
Mhm.
to see more of that.
So good things, I like when people like know about the company, like they know.
Mhm.
That always makes me stand out. Like, some people bring up, oh, like your guys' stock price is like so high. It's like, oh, you like looked at that? So like stuff
Yeah,
like
good.
that makes me excited. And I think most of our interviewers get excited about that when you actually have like researched us a little bit. Things that are can be frustrating are just when a candidate seems like a little bit like negative about
Mhm.
certain things, or is kind of like blaming, say you ask somebody like, why'd you leave your last job, and they're like blaming, like they have list of blames basically
Yeah,
for like
yeah,
why
yeah.
they left. Like, it's not our value, like I said, is taking ownership. So like don't just like
Mhm.
blame something, like even if it was something, try to like twist that
Right.
into like something more positive. Because stuff like that, if somebody comes in seeming very negative, I think that's definitely like, we're usually just like, that doesn't fit. Also, asking about like pay too soon, I think, is a big
Mhm.
one as
Mhm.
well. Like, Lithia is not like we aren't looking for people who just want to be paid a lot. Like we're looking for, like I said, cultural fit, you wanting to build your career and grow with the company and all this stuff. We pay well, but we also don't think that's the most important thing. And so when you bring that up kind of in the beginning, or even in the beginning when talking to a recruiter, I don't think, I just, there's not really any reason to. As a recruiter, we will ask you, do you have a desired pay range? Because that's part of our screening process. So it's also something to think about if you are going to talk with one of our recruiters. So we will ask you that, but I wouldn't bring it up on your own is kind of like, is kind of the idea. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. That is all really solid advice. And I'm sure folks will appreciate hearing that. I think certainly if they're applying for Lithia positions, to have some sense of kind of what to expect from the process. But I think everything that you mentioned there is fantastic advice, no matter what, interviews you might have lined up. It's going to help you be really prepared. So I guess that's sort of the end of my formal line of questions. I wonder if there are other things that have either come up for you in the course of this conversation that you want to loop back around to, or if you have other things that you would want to share either about Lithia or the opportunities that are coming up, or just a general shout out or information for folks who are getting ready to apply for internships or full-time jobs and things you want them to keep in mind.
So for like other advice, I think just to go off of that pay thing, I always recommend to people to be like realistic about like your pay. So like do your research, like, because so in our initial screening, the first time you talk, the candidate talks to a recruiter, we ask you, do you have a desired pay range? If that pay range is like way off from the position or way off from like your skill set, then that's kind of, then we're kind of like, I don't even know if we're going to pass them along for an interview. And so I think that sometimes kills the opportunity for a lot of like really good candidates. So just like do some research, like, look at other positions in the area, look at how much they're being paid, ask around, ask people that are doing the position that you want to do, stuff like that. Just consider, be realistic. Don't give some like crazy number because you heard that's what they pay in the Bay Area, because that's not going to be what we pay in Southern Oregon. So just, you have to think about location. I think it's a big thing too, because sometimes like with our data analysts, people think that that's going to pay 100 to 110 right out of school, where that's not really the case for Southern Oregon. It does pay well, but not quite that well in the valley. So keep that realistic. As for other advice, I mean, I kind of already mentioned this, but I think definitely like it's not just about the job, and like at any company you go to, like make sure it's the right fit for you, because like if you don't like it, it's not going to be fun for you and you're not going to do well. And if you love where you work, you're going to love it. You're going to perform well, and it's just all going to be so much easier. And like I learned that. I started in I worked in public accounting and it just wasn't for me, and I was unhappy and all this stuff. But then I went into recruiting, and now it's like the easiest thing to go to work every day. And I'm fine working extra hours or anything because it's what I like. So I always give people that advice. And yeah, just find the best possible fit for your future, basically. It's kind of my best advice. As for, all of our positions, the positions that we talked about earlier, most of those are we're always hiring for those entry-level positions. So anytime you're looking for a job, really, they're probably going to be open at least in the next like month or 2 months of when you start looking. So anytime you're interested in those, feel free, like I said, to reach out to me at alexdebora@lithia.com, or go on lithiacareers.com to see any open postings we have. Connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with any other recruiters that you see. Like all of our recruiters are great. We've got a big team, and any recruiter you see on LinkedIn, just connect. People are always posting jobs and posting opportunities. And so it's good to just be, in the loop and everything.
Excellent. Well, thank you for all of that. And thank you more broadly for this kind of peek behind the curtain. I think it's really useful, especially as you're preparing to graduate, or maybe have just graduated, and you have this goal of getting a job, and perhaps even more specifically getting a job at Lithia, which is, we're so fortunate to have Lithia here in the Valley. And, as you've described today, there's so many great opportunities, so much room for growth, such a neat culture, that I really think there's probably a lot for a wide variety of folks. And I suppose I'll just even ask that explicitly as we wrap up here. Sometimes I talk to students and they think, well, no, this is, those jobs are only for business students, right? Like it's a big business, Fortune 500, I need to be a business student to get that job. Can you either confirm that or put that myth, to bed?
No, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because like for Driveway specifically, we'll hire any major. Like we're looking
Gotcha.
for literally anyone that enjoys, working with a customer, enjoys the culture, wants to do that. We'll hire any major, English major, history major, anything. So don't let that discourage you. And even for some of these more business type roles, like you don't have to be a business major to do those. Like maybe you have some skills that you've learned in other areas, or you've done some really great research. We'd still love to talk to you. Even for like that DART program that I mentioned, we have a lot of like people who've done analytics projects for like healthcare or things like that, and so that can also be a really good translatable skill as well. So I mean, if you have a passion for healthcare, I'm not sure Lithia is the best, but if you had that and you kind of want to go for Lithia, that's great. So definitely, if you're not a business major, totally fine. Still reach out, still connect. We definitely have opportunities. We also have a lot of people don't know, but we have a whole department for real estate and construction management type positions. And that's another big one that I've actually been hiring for, and we even offer internships in that. So if you were like an engineering major, this team basically goes out and like develops our dealerships across the country, does the builds, finds the properties, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of another area too that we hire for. So
okay, yeah, that's great. Well, I think that's particularly helpful because it expands, I think, that the scope of types of students, or the population that you're looking for, and certainly I imagine if you're applying for an accounting position, it's good to have that accounting degree, but for a lot of these positions that you're looking for kind of well-rounded folks. And to the advice that you gave earlier, it's good as a candidate to be able to loop back around to why that healthcare degree or that history degree or that English degree is going to help you do the job. You need to be able to articulate that.
Exactly.
But the degree itself it is absolutely appropriate and acceptable as long as you can speak to why it's going to be beneficial.
Right. And you'll see on like our job descriptions, like we have like requirements for people, and they're really simple. It's like you have to be 18, you have to have a high school degree, and some college degrees for the more technical ones, but we try to keep it simple so that we don't block out any group of anyone. So
excellent. Well, that's fantastic. I really appreciate this time today. Thank you for making yourself available both here in this conversation, but also via email and via LinkedIn. I will, of course, share this video, and I'm sure anyone who's watching this in the future will reach out to you if they've got questions or want to initiate a conversation. So I will wrap up the recording here unless you have anything else. Is there anything else? I don't want to leave you with something unsaid.
No, that's great. Please reach out to me. I'll look forward to talking to you. I always like to talk to SOU students. So thanks, Max, for having me, and maybe we can do something else like this in the future, in person,
absolutely.
maybe someday.
Yes, that would be great. I'd love to have you back. Well, thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye.